asking questions, all right? My name is Jim DeLuca. I'm gonna give you my business card. I'm the manufacturer's representative for Flowserve pump equipment. And you have Flowserve pump, and I'm going to describe to you exactly what a Flowserve pump is. The- Oh, sure. The application, by the way, is plant water.
I have a schedule to
Sure. Do you have any more?
I'm sorry. I thought it was.
And the reason I bring this up, and I want to go over this, is because you're going to see a few different names, and I'm going to use different names today. And rather than confuse you throughout, I may as well confuse you right now. Flowserve is a manufacturer, okay, but they purchased a company called Ingersoll Dresser Pump. Flowserve is a large holding company of pump companies, seal manufacturers, pump manufacturers, and some other equipment. But right now, we want to focus on the pumping equipment. They purchased Flowserve purchased a company called Ingersoll Dresser Pump. Ingersoll Dresser Pump was made up of a company called Ingersoll Rand and Dresser Pump. Dresser Pump was made up of Worthington and Pacific. Now, the reason I mention this is because on your pump, and we'll look at it when we get down there, you may see an IDP, Ingersoll Dresser Pump, nomenclature into the castings. You may see Worthington somewhere in the literature. You may see Flowserve, obviously, you see it right here. So there's various names that we're talking about, but they're all the same thing. Flowserve Pump now owns it all, okay? The reason I mention that, like I said, is it can be a bit confusing. I came from the Worthington side. This is a Worthington pump. I may call it a Worthington pump as I'm talking to you guys. I'll do my best to just call it a Flowserve pump, okay? Flowserve, as I said, is a holding company. They've been able to purchase a bunch of different companies over the years. Your scrubber discharge pumps are old Worthington pumps. Ingersoll Dresser Pump, I think, was the nameplate on those. And the new Venturi pumps are the same thing. Those are going to be Flowserve pumps as well. They were Ingersoll Dresser Pump. Again, same thing. Now they're Flowserve. Okay, guys? Any questions about that?
So if we contact if you want to talk.
You contact me if you want parts. Always contact me if you want parts. We'll go over that too. Okay. Any questions with regards to the pump's heritage itself? The design, nothing, okay. I have a handout that I'm gonna give you guys, actually, here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 5. You hand those out, I'll give you that too. You guys currently have pumps installed, plant water pumps. I guess there's 3 total, 2 are still running, right?
Yeah.
They have the vertical shaft. I don't really remember who's the manufacturer of that pump. I know it's not Flowserve, Worthington, Ingersoll. It may be Fairbanks Morrison, it might be Aurora, I'm not really too sure. Anyway, the reason I'm showing you this is because your pump is a bit unique. You guys are in maintenance, you've done maintenance on those pumps as they are right now. One of the biggest problems with vertically mounted split case pumps, and those are vertically mounted as well, I believe, is that the room will get warm in the summer. You get condensate building up, or the top seal leaks. Water flows around the casing and ends up in the bottom bearing. If any maintenance at all, or any problem with those pumps, probably starts with the lower bearing. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's usually the way it works. You guys are in maintenance. Have you seen that? Yes, no?
Actually, most of the problem we have is with the top bearing on the shaft.
Oh, okay, well, that's done now anyway. That's true. Let me go back over that too. These pumps are gonna have motors mounted directly on the pumps. So you're gonna be doing away with your vertical shafting, which you're right, that'll be another problem. And they're loud too. I notice they're very loud. So that's gone. But one of the major problems that we found over the years is that, again, you get condensate building up on the casing, or you get the top seal leaking, packing, whatever it may be, and eventually the water finds its way to the lower bearing. Obviously, if water gets into your bearing, grease lube bearing, eventually it's gonna fail. Okay, what they did is they came up with a new design. It's not brand new. I don't want you to think it's being used for the first time here. They've got a number of them installed, but it's unique. If you look at this drawing, okay, this one right here, you'll see something somewhat unique if you focus on the bottom half of the pump. you'll see a piece of tubing that comes off of the volute, runs down like this, comes around and goes into the bottom bearing, okay? On the top half, it comes around and goes into the stuffing box. The bottom bearing, or the bottom half of this pump, doesn't have a stuffing box, okay? And the lower bearing is lubricated by water, like a vertical turbine pump, if you're familiar with vertical turbine pumps. And the reason they did that is because what I talked about earlier. Buildup of condensate, whatever, water finding its way into that lower bearing, and eventually, because it's grease lubricated, it fails. And that's a pain in the neck to replace, okay? So rather than try to keep the water out, they're saying, you know what? Let's let the water lubricate it. It's used all the time on vertical turbine pumps. So what we've got is a cutlass rubber bearing installed on the lower bearing. No stuffing box, so you don't have to worry about a mechanical seal or packing down there. And effectively, we're using the water that we're pumping to lubricate that lower bearing. You guys got that?
Yeah.
It's somewhat unique because you don't see too many of these around. We've got a number of them installed, and I'll tell you, I haven't had any complaints at all. All the maintenance guys love them because these are not easy pumps to work on because of the way that they're situated, vertically mounted. You've got to pull that casing off, and it kind of comes this way right at you. It's kind of a pain in the neck. And to get at that lower bearing, you almost have to take that pump right out of there. Well, that becomes a lot easier because this lower bearing is going to give you a longer life, again, because it's lubricated by what you're pumping. Or in this particular case, if I'm not mistaken, I'll have to go out and look. This shows that the water is coming off of the volute around and into the lower bearing. I believe you guys have water coming off of the back end of the, after it goes through the strainer, then comes back, like tubing comes back and lubricates this bearing. And the reason for that is because obviously water coming out of the strainer on the discharge side of the pump is going to be cleaner than the water that you're pumping. I think, personally, I didn't think it was a big deal, but CDM in their review of the design thought it better. This was later, after the job had been issued and whatnot, that it would be better to have the water coming out of the from the strainer back to the pump versus using the pump liquid. I think your plant water is probably pretty clean as it is, but we'll look today, all right? By the way, after we leave, once we go through all this stuff, we'll go out to the pump, we'll take a look. One has been partially installed. It's not able to be run yet because they haven't done an alignment and they haven't done a full checkout, but it's getting close, all right? Any questions on this? Because again, this is somewhat unique.
Not yet. Sure, I will later on.
Well, you've got my card. If anything ever comes up, I want you to feel free to give me a call. The next page just gives you all the materials of construction, and the reason I did that is because if you look at reference number 44, it calls it the cutlass rubber bearing bush. Let's see. At the bottom, this is again an optional type design, and it calls a bearing bushing cutlass rubber. And again, cutlass rubber is what is used on all vertical turbine pumps, either bronze or bronze-backed rubber bearings. Okay, the top half, if we focus back on the top half of this picture is showing a mechanical seal. You guys do have a mechanical seal in your design on the top half only, and that's pretty much the only one that you're really going to have to worry about, and that's easily accessible. No questions? Okay. Okay, review the operation of the pump. The pump, just like the ones you have, are vertically mounted, split case pumps. The water comes in and is introduced into the casing in the suction side. Water actually is split. It's a double suction impeller, not just this pump, but the pump you've got. And then discharges, obviously, out your discharge nozzle into your piping system. The pump should be started with the suction valve open. Some of this stuff is pretty basic stuff. You don't have to have the discharge valve open when you start it, but you should open it after you start it. You should vent it, if you have the ability to vent it, so that any air that might build up into the casing is released. They're gonna be on VFDs. I don't know if they're on VFDs now, are they? Okay, the pumps are gonna be, the pumps are gonna be operated on variable frequency drives. I'm not sure what the sequence of operation is, because I'm not familiar with it. In other words, what is driving the speed of that pump Is it pressure? Is it volume? I really don't know.
Pressure on the system.
It is pressure in the system, so obviously as your pressure drops, the pump's gonna have to speed up, right? The VFD will receive a signal. You have one of these, this is the operation and maintenance manual. I'm sure you probably have more than one. They've been submitted, I believe they've been approved. If you need to look at it, let me know, but you should. We're gonna do some startup and testing on these pumps in the middle of January. At that point, if you don't have these, I'll make sure that they're brought to you. They're either in CDM for review or somewhere in between, but this is what it's gonna look like. And on the cover, obviously, it's gonna give the Flowserve name, O&M manual. The model of the pump, it's a Model 8 LR14 LR designation. Is an internal designation, just means split case pump. V is vertical. 14 is the nominal impeller diameter, maximum nominal impeller diameter, and you've got three of them. Down at this bottom gives you the pump order number, which is good to have, but not all that critical. On each pump, you're gonna find a nameplate, okay? And on that nameplate, you're gonna have the model number, which is on here. You're gonna have the flow and the head and a whole bunch of things, but one very, very important thing. You're gonna get the serial number is gonna be on that nameplate. I say this all the time, so if you've heard it from me before, I apologize. Don't paint the nameplate. Pretty basic stuff, I realize that, but a lot of people do paint them. And what happens is 15 years from now, when you need a part, you call me up and you say, I can't really read the nameplate. I think it's I think it's this, I think it's that. If you call me with anything on this pump, anything at all, I need the nameplate information. I need the model number, but more important than anything at all, I need the serial number. Even if you can't tell me the model number, the serial number will tell me everything. Factory keeps a bill of material, an original file. In that original file is all, obviously all the bill of materials pumps originally supplied with, performance curves, and anything else that might be special or unique about the pump. Again, I don't mean to insult you guys. I'm sure you're told that all the time.
So everything's in the O&M, you're saying?
Everything's in the O&M. Actually, the nameplates are in the O&M too. Yeah. That leads to this.
One question I was gonna ask before is the loop vented?
I have to go down and look. It should be, if it's not, there should be a tap. There is a tap to vent it. Whether it's vented right now or not, I don't really know. I don't know if it's called out in the drawings, but there is a tap at the top of the loop for us to do that. This is the operation and maintenance manual. This is what it looks like, the nuts and bolts of what you're dealing with here. The pump itself, from a maintenance point of view, really the section that you have to be most concerned with on this pump is the upper half. The upper half requires lubrication. The bearing does require grease, and the motor will require grease. The bottom half, because of its design, will not require you guys to do anything.
That'll most likely it'll be my job to lube that, that's what I do now.
Okay.
So we can go around and lube all that stuff, so.
It calls out the type of grease in here and the frequency of the greasing and replacement of the greasing. And when we do our performance testing, again in a couple of weeks, when we're all done performance test of all three, then we're gonna come in with a vibration guy, and he's gonna do vibration for each pump, so that you'll then have a footprint of each pump, by the way. So in 6 months or a year, you have your own guy come in, or you do it yourself, or you contract it out, it doesn't really matter. Then you'll be able to check the new data, or a year later data, with the data that's taken now, and that'll tell you if that bearing that you're lubricating is bad, or if it's fine, or if you have a misalignment, or maybe you have nothing at all. But lubrication-wise, all the information is inside of here. Standard maintenance on this pump, effectively, is just lubrication of that bearing, lubrication of the coupling, and lubrication of the motors, the motor bearings. That's pretty much it. You want me to go to the page, or? No, I mean, it's pretty basic. It's nothing unique or special with the grease.
I just need to look at it and see where all.
Yeah, they're right there. The dessert fittings are right there. It's pretty simple.
As long as I know where the fittings are.
You're all set, huh?
I get greased at least once a week.
Do you know if you've, transmitted any, grease or whatever, if that's in case to Randy, you know, Randy, specific grease applications, contract provides to us as like a spare part, or grease?
Oh, you mean lubricant? Have we
Yeah,
supplied
grease
lubricant as a
lubricants,
spare part? Generally, lubricants are not a spare part, and the reason for that is because, as I understand it, they have trouble getting it over state lines if it's oil or grease. Unless it's like a controlled substance, I guess. That's what I'm told. I don't know what the rules are exactly.
So basically you have spare parts that you transmit, but
Not
no
grease.
lubricants, Randy would have to coordinate.
Correct, yeah. But all that's needed on this, the only thing that is transported, by the way, first of all, the bearings are packed in the factory. The bearing and the motor bearings are packed with grease in the factory before they ship. And we'll do a quick 3 or 4 blasts into that bearing as well before we run it.
Even though it seems a little bit mundane, would you just flip us through that schedule and just walk us through it quickly, please?
Sure.
The grease and loose schedule and motors, I think you discussed that a little bit, please.
Sure. I just have to find it, so bear with me, okay?
Thank you.
Lubrication schedule. Okay, recommended oil lubricants. On page 19 of your manual, you're gonna find the recommended grease and oil lubricants. And these are the different types and the manufacturers are located in, on this page. It identifies, this manual, just to back up a little bit, this manual is used, as a lot of manufacturers do. They use one manual for everything. When I say everything, all LR pumps. So not everything pertains, it says recommended oil lubricants. You don't have oil as a lubricant on this pump. So you can, this could have been crossed out, but it wasn't. So you have to focus on this right here, on 5.2.2, recommended grease lubricants. And it gives you the temperature ranges depending upon the temperature that the pump is gonna be seeing in that room, which I can't believe is gonna be, you know, above 100, it's negative 20 to 100 plus. Oh, excuse me, negative 4 degrees to 212.
It stays well below that.
I mean, hell, it's gotta fit into that range. If it doesn't, we got other issues, I would think. And it tells you that, it gives you all the different manufacturers, BP, Mobil, Shell, Texaco's. I don't know what kind you use. You use Mobil. So it'll be a Mobil X2 or 3, either one. You probably got it in stock. Yeah. Okay, you have to change the grease at about every 4,000 hours or 6 months. So I know you go down and grease that. What do you do, just give it one pump?
Yeah, I used to give it 2, but I found out it's better off if I just give it 1 shot.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you give a place for the grease to relieve itself. If you don't, then that buildup is gonna force that seal, that rubber seal out, and it's just gonna be messy. It's just messy, that's all. That's whatever you guys feel is appropriate. But you gotta change it out every 4,000 hours, at a minimum. You guys are probably doing